Think about the last time you booked a flight. You went to a website, you typed in where you're going and when, and within about a second, a list appeared. Dozens of options, different airlines, different times, different prices. You scrolled and you picked one and you paid. Here's the thing though, that list you were choosing from, you probably assume the airline put it there, or maybe the website did, and mostly neither of them actually did. Sitting in the middle between you, the travel site, and the airline itself, there are 3 companies, and there's a very good chance you've never heard a single one of their names. Take a look at this. Amadeus, Sabre, Travelport. Between them, these 3 handle something like 9 out of 10 of every flight bookings that goes through a travel agent, or a corporate booking tool, or even a lot of the big online travel sites. Amadeus has around 40% of the share, Sabre about 35%, and Travelport most of what's left. 3 names have almost the entire pipeline. So today, we're getting into 3 things. Where these companies actually came from, how they ended up controlling the entire plumbing of global air travel in the first place, and why it still costs you money every single time you book, even though the whole system is now starting to fall apart. As always, let's get into it. So what exactly are these types of companies? In the industry, the name for them is a bit of a mouthful, Global Distribution System, or GDS for short. That might actually sound more familiar than the names of the companies themselves. The idea behind it is simple enough. Before computers, if you wanted a seat on a plane, someone somewhere had a physical record of that flight. A card, a board, some kind of physical record of who had been booked on what seat. And to sell you the seat, an agent had to get hold of that record. They had to check it, mark you down, and hope nobody else was doing exactly the same thing at the same moment. It was slow, and it obviously did not scale. The fix came from an odd place. In 1953, the boss of American Airlines is on a flight across the states, and he ends up sat next to a salesman from IBM. They get chatting about what a mess airline booking is, and out of that conversation comes an idea. What if a computer could hold every seat, every passenger, every itinerary in one place, and keep it all up to date in real time? These 2 guys had more than just this idea in common. They even shared the same surname. The 2 of them, Mr. Smith from the airline and Mrs. Smith from IBM, sounds fake, almost like some kind of undercover names, began to hatch a plan. Bringing this idea to life took years and a small fortune, about $40 million, which in the early 60s was staggering money. It's equivalent to about $400 million today. But by 1964, the thing was live. They called it Sabre. It ran on a pair of IBM mainframes in a building just north of New York, and it did something that had never been done before. A booking that used to take the better part of half an hour could now be done in seconds. By the middle of the 60s, it was pushing through 7,500 bookings in an hour. That is the pioneer, the first of its kind anywhere in the world. Now, once American Airlines had Sabre working, they did something clever with it. Instead of keeping it in-house, they put terminals out directly into travel agencies. Suddenly, an agent could see live availability, compare flights, and book a ticket all from one screen on their desk. The other airlines watched this, and frankly, they were panicking. So they went and built their own systems to compete. United had one called Apollo. TWA, Delta, Eastern, they all piled in. And this is where the trouble starts. Think about who owned these screens. American owned Sabre. United owned Apollo. So when a travel agent sat down to find you a flight and a list came up in front of them, who decided what sat at the top of that list? The airline that owned the screen. And they took pretty serious advantage of that. Gently at first, the owner's flights just happened to come up higher ahead of cheaper, more convenient options from their rivals. There's a name for this in the trade. It's called the halo effect. It just means the extra bookings an airline picked up purely because their system was the one on the agent's desk, the screen that they were staring at all day. United's own figures suggested that when an agency switched onto their booking system, bookings on United jumped by something like 10%. The flights themselves were no different from the day before. What had changed was the running order on the screen. And the agents who realistically were too busy to spend ages scrolling tended to book from near the top of the list. Regulators eventually worked out what was going on. Through the 80s, the US government dug into all of this and found that the bias was real. And not just that it was real, but that it was worth millions of dollars to the airlines that owned the systems. So they brought in rules, like actual laws, banning a system from shoving its own flights to the front. American, for example, got caught pulling a competitor's fares clean out of the comparison display anytime a competitor decided to put flights on one of its routes. Meanwhile, over in Europe, the airlines were watching all of this and they were kind of shook. The two dominant systems were American. They were controlled by American carriers. And if you were Air France or Lufthansa, you didn't love the idea of your seats being sold through a screen that your biggest rivals owned and could tilt whenever they wanted. So in 1987, 4 of these European airlines, Air France, Lufthansa, Iberia, and SAS, clubbed together and built their own. They called it Amadeus, named apparently after Mozart, which tells you the sort of image that they were going for. The whole pitch was neutrality, a system that wasn't owned by any single airline, so nobody's flights could get shoved up to the top of the pile on the sly. They put the headquarters in Madrid, built the engine over in Germany, and went after the European market hard. And the third one, that's a bit of a Frankenstein story. Over the decades, all of those old systems, the American ones, the ones other carriers copied, got bought, merged, split, and bought all over again. Apollo, Galileo, Worldspan, names most travelers have never heard of in their lives, including myself. And one by one, they all ended up under a single roof. That roof is called Travelport, and it is run out of none other than the United Kingdom, just west of London. It's the smallest of the three, and it still handles about a fifth of the entire global market. So that's how we got here. 3 companies, 1 American, 1 European, 1 British, sitting between you and nearly every flight that you'll ever book through an agent or a travel site. And the rest, those are the flights that you book direct straight on the airline's own website or on their app, where none of these 3 can get a look in. Big deal. 3 companies basically run the whole operation. Why should you, sat there booking a summer holiday, actually care? Well, every single time an airline sells a seat through one of these systems, it pays a fee. It's not a huge fee on its own, somewhere between roughly $3 and $12 per flight, but that's per flight segment. And a segment is just one takeoff and landing. A normal return trip with a connection has 4 of these. If you multiply that across every ticket sold through an agent, every corporate booking, every big travel website, it turns into one of the largest costs an airline carries that has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with actually flying the plane. Across the whole industry combined, these booking fees have been reckoned at somewhere around $7 billion a year. And that cost gets built straight into the price of your ticket. As with everything, there's nuance to this. The narrative of these 3 companies control every flight booking, of course, is kind of true. But as always, there's rebels. And the rebels in this story are exactly who you think they are. Unsurprisingly, there's a whole world of airlines that took one look at these fees and said, absolutely not. Think Ryanair, EasyJet, Southwest. For years, if you wanted to book their seats, you couldn't go through an agent system at all. You had to go to their own website directly. And that was completely deliberate. Cutting out the middleman was the entire point. And it's a big reason that these fares could be as cheap as they were. I used to work at one of the biggest online travel agencies in the world, and I could never understand why I couldn't see some huge airlines on their flight search. And this is part of the reason. And lately, even the big traditional airlines have started pushing back. There's a newer standard called NDC, New Distribution Capacity, which basically lets an airline plug straight into a travel seller and skip a chunk of those old system fees. Back in 2015, Lufthansa became the first major airline to just slap a surcharge onto any booking that still came through the old way. About 16 euros each time, not a very subtle nudge to get everyone to move on. Plenty of airlines have followed suit since. And the massive twist in the whole story, remember Sabre, the pioneer, the one that kicked all of this off back in the 60s. Today, they're the ones struggling. Sabre's carrying billions of dollars in debt. It recently sold off an entire division just to help pay some of their debt down. And the whole company is now worth less than $1 billion. Amadeus, on the other hand, the European upstart, the latecomer that 4 airlines dreamed up in 1987, is worth north of 20 billion euros. The company that invented the model is now in bits, and the ones who copied it, the one specifically who copied it a quarter of a century later, is the one running the industry. So next time you're on a booking site and that list of flights loads up in front of you and you go to pick one, just remember that there is a hidden layer underneath the whole thing. 3 companies most people will never have heard of, but you have now. deciding a surprising amount of what you get shown and what it ends up costing. They've been there the entire time. You just never had a reason to look. If you found this video even 1% interesting, please don't forget to like the video, it massively helps me out. Please don't forget to consider subscribing so that the next time I have a kind of cool idea, you don't miss it. I'm Jordan, this is Miles Ahead. If you're still here at the end, I appreciate you so much. And as always, safe.